Greetings, netizens of YouTube. It has come to my attention that there is a lot of ignorance and misinformation about what social justice is, particularly on YouTube. Whilst it's true that there are some differences of opinion concerning an in-depth description, there are some fundamentals that can be identified. I would like to give you two brief descriptions and a definitive one. Following that, I'd like to ask you all a question and address some of the misinformed directly. Social justice, a state or doctrine of egalitarianism, the causes of human freedom and of social justice, Sir Winston Churchill. Promote the common good and social justice. That's Merriam Webster. I think we can all agree this definition doesn't assist, and is so encompassing it could mean almost anything. One might think its description is indistinguishable from egalitarianism. The Oxford American Dictionary gives, in my opinion, a more concrete but somewhat biased interpretation of the term, but for the sake of balance I will include it here. Justice, in terms of the distribution of wealth, opportunities and privileges within a society, e.g., individuality gives way to the struggle for social justice. This description describes social justice more comprehensively than the first, but is inaccurate in that it describes the means of social justice rather than the general goal itself. Interestingly, it also mentions the distribution of wealth first, as if this is the primary means of social justice. Indeed, whoever made this entry helpfully gives us individuality gives way to the struggle of social justice as an example, when you shall see in a moment social justice in no way advocates that individuality be surrendered in its name. Referring to these definitions, we can already see that a large part of the argument isn't about social justice at all. It's about the means, or about what methods we are willing to use in an effort to achieve social justice. Now, I'm not going to go into depth on this for now. I have my own views, but I would like to present to you a more definitive and inclusive description by John Rawls. It's worth noting that Rawls in many ways is considered the godfather of social justice theory, and his work is the closest there is to an official definition. Rawls speaks of social justice including equal rights, equal opportunities and liberties for all. It also advocates that the least advantaged in society are taken care of. If we are to talk about a very general description of social justice, this is by far the most accurate in my opinion. In his book, Theory of Social Justice, he describes two central tenets which he calls the two principles of justice. 1. Each person has an equal right to a fully adequate scheme of equal basic liberties which is compatible with a similar scheme of liberties for all. 2. Social and economic inequalities are to satisfy two conditions. First, they must be attached to offices and positions open to all under conditions of fair equality of opportunity, and second, they must be the greatest benefit of the least advantaged members of society. Rawls does not suggest that everyone will agree with what justice requires in given situations, but rather that his conception of justice as fairness can fit into conflicting doctrines because of what he calls overlapping consensus. That is, people agree enough about the basic principles of justice he offers that even when they disagree about larger moral, religious or philosophical issues, they can still agree about issues of social justice. It is important to note that these definitions provided do not go into detail about how social justice should be achieved, although Rawls does explain in his book. This is a matter of personal or political opinion. However, it's important to define the basic principles of social justice in order to understand what we are either promoting or attempting to discredit. Statistically, it's very likely that most of you watching this will support at least one of the two central tenets of social justice, the principles of justice. Everybody will support the first, while there will be differences of opinion on the second. Most will support equality of opportunity, but others will question how the greatest benefit of the least advantaged members of society is defined, which imply issues such as the redistribution of wealth, taxation policy, or even positive discrimination. And so the key question arises: just how much of the fundamentals of social justice do you have to agree with in order to support it? Is Rawls' general description enough? Or perhaps supporting one of his 2 principles of social justice will suffice? I have previously argued that those that support the first tenet and equality of opportunity from the second, particularly those that support socialized healthcare and forms of progressive taxation, must be supporters of social justice, but I'm not going to do that here. Instead, let me address the critics of social justice directly by asking a question. Whether you support only part of social justice or half of it, can you honestly say that you are against it? And when echo chambers around you are decrying the latest examples of, air quotes, social justice, sots, just, or social justice warriors, how do you react? Do you think of an outrageous incident held up as an example of social justice by somebody who doesn't even understand the concept? Or simply just tolerate the narrative? Do you believe this is not your fight? How does it make you feel when you see comment after comment condemning social justice, knowing what it is? Has it occurred to you that at least some of those who are gleefully condemning social justice are actually against the type of equality that presumably you believe in? What kind of message do you think is sent to those, and I'd say that's probably the majority, that don't know what social justice means? Is it possible that the only thing that some will take away from this witch hunt is that social justice is bad? They are given ammunition by extremists on Twitter, you say. Yes, and doubtless I can find examples of passionate supporters of free market economics that support slavery, or pacifists that support sending US or NATO-led troops abroad to prevent a, inverted commas, a genocide. Does that make supporters of a free market evil per se? Does it discredit the concept of pacifism? Finding outliers and using them to create panic may be a good way to keep your subs engaged, but isn't it irresponsible and intellectually dishonest? Let me ask another question. What percentage of advocates of social justice and feminism, for that matter, are on Twitter? Do you think it's at all possible that the comments and ideas you read, presuming they are true in the first place, are representative of mainstream social justice? So what are the people that cry, yes, maybe that's what social justice used to mean, but today it means something else? I say no. As I have established, you are talking about the means by which some social justice advocates believe we can come to the equality they support. That is their opinion. It is not necessary to agree with the measures they support in order to support social justice. You do not have to support all those means to support the basic concept. I would say one last thing. If you truly feel that you can't support social justice because of the methods of those you feel are pushing it upon you, don't be negative. Advocate an alternate means of achieving equality. I don't know how else to explain this to you, but we all know there is injustice in this society. Who are the ones affecting change in society? Is it the people out on the front line or in the streets? Or is it those who mumble platitudes about how they are egalitarian and support equality but oppose any change to create it?